You won't believe what this dog did when his owner started crying. It wasn't trained, it wasn't a trick, it was something deeper, something instinctual. The kind of moment that makes you stop and say, wait, do dogs really feel what we feel? I used to laugh at those viral videos, the ones where a dog rushes to its crying owner or tilts its head when someone's upset. I figured, cute coincidence, but then one day, my dog did something that stopped me cold. He looked at me, no barking, no whining, just those eyes, and I swear, in that moment, he knew. He felt everything I was going through. And what happened next? That's what changed everything. This isn't just a heartwarming story. This is science, real emotion, and the strange, beautiful truth about the dogs we live with every day. So if you've ever wondered if your dog truly understands you, stick around, because what you're about to hear might just blow your mind. A few weeks after my breakdown on the living room floor, something happened that confirmed everything I had started to believe about dogs and emotions. My friend Sarah came over, visibly shaken. Her dad had passed away the night before, and although she didn't want to talk about it, you could just feel the grief coming off her. You know how sometimes when someone's holding back tears, the air feels heavy? That's how it was. Max had never met Sarah before. He's not a naturally jumpy or overly affectionate dog. He usually sniffs and keeps his distance unless he really knows someone. But this time, he walked right over to her slowly. No barking, no tail wagging. He just sat in front of her and stared up into her face. Then he placed his head gently on her knee. She broke down immediately, and he didn't move. He just stayed there, breathing with her, staying still, letting her cry. Now sure, some might say that's coincidence, but remember what I told you earlier about dogs being able to read tone and facial expressions? What if there's more to it? Let me tell you about one of the most fascinating studies I came across. Researchers wanted to know if dogs respond differently to humans crying versus humans just making strange noises, like humming or talking in a neutral tone. They brought in dozens of dogs and had their owners either cry or hum, with neutral facial expressions. The result? Dogs were far more likely to approach their owners when they were crying. Not just approach, they showed signs of distress, concern, and in many cases, tried to comfort them. That's not just a reaction to sound. That's emotional detection. And this is where things get even more interesting. Because another group of scientists ran a similar experiment, but this time they introduced strangers into the mix. Would dogs comfort people they didn't know? Turns out, yes, many of them did. This suggests that dogs may actually empathize, not just with their owners, but with humans in general. They don't need to know your life story to know when something's wrong. They can feel it. And here's where the science lines up perfectly with real life. Think about therapy dogs. They aren't trained to sniff out sadness. They don't have some high-tech sensors or emotional software in their brains. They're just dogs. But they consistently provide comfort, reduce anxiety, and even lower blood pressure in humans across hospitals, trauma centers, schools, and more. Why? Because they intuitively respond to human emotion. That doesn't happen by chance, that's connection, that's empathy. I remember watching a documentary about a golden retriever named Bentley who worked in a children's hospital. In one scene, a little girl who hadn't spoken in days following a traumatic event was sitting on a hospital bed. Bentley walked in, quietly laid beside her, and after a few minutes, the girl whispered, "Puppy." Now, is that scientific evidence? No. But if you ask me, that moment was worth 1,000 peer-reviewed papers. And you know what's funny? Sometimes we underestimate our dogs because they can't talk. But the truth is they're constantly listening, not just to our words, but to our hearts. They're watching how we move, noticing the change in our breath, the tremble in our hands, the break in our voice. They feel what we feel, without needing a language for it. Let me pause here for a second. If this part of the story moved you, or reminded you of your own dog's comforting moments, please give this video a like and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to leave a comment with your dog yes name and tell me how they comfort you when you are feeling low. I read every single one. Back to Max. After that day with Sarah, I started noticing it more and more, not just with me, but with guests, with neighbors, even with strangers at the dog park. Max has a way of sensing who needs him. He doesn't go to the loudest person or the most energetic one. He finds the quietest one, the one trying to hide their feelings, and he just sits with them. I realized something else too. When I'm sick, Max doesn't act the same. He doesn't demand walks or food in the same way. He stays closer, sleeps nearer to me, follows me from room to room. He doesn't understand sickness the way we do, but he knows something's wrong. And that's enough for him to change how he behaves. That's emotional intelligence. Maybe not human level, but it's there, and it's real. Science is finally catching up to what dog owners have felt for centuries. That dogs may not speak our language, but they're fluent in our emotions. In the next section, we were going to look at how this bond between dogs and humans actually forms, and how early in life it starts. We'll also explore the role of oxytocin in both species, and how a simple look between you and your dog might be more powerful than you think. Trust me, you don't want to miss it.
So here's the big question. How do dogs actually know what we're feeling? I mean, they don't speak our language. They don't understand our culture, our jobs, our daily stress. And yet somehow they tune into us better than most humans do. To answer that, we have to go back, way back. See, dogs are not just tamed wolves. Over thousands of years, they've evolved alongside us. They were the first animals we domesticated. They helped us hunt, guarded our homes, and eventually curled up on our couches. But this partnership wasn't one-sided. We changed them, and they changed us too. Research shows that dogs are one of the only animals that naturally look into human eyes for guidance. Wolves don't do this. Chimps don't do this. Even most cats don't care. But dogs, they lock eyes with us. And when they do, something magical happens on a biological level. Our brains release oxytocin, the love hormone. You've probably heard of it. It's the same chemical that bonds mothers to their babies. It's released when we hug someone we love. It's literally the glue of emotional connection. But here's the twist. Dogs release oxytocin too, when they look at us. That means both species get a neurochemical reward just by gazing into each other's eyes. It's not just affection, it's biologically encoded connection. A study from Japan found that when dogs and their owners stared at each other for several minutes, both experienced increased levels of oxytocin. And it wasn't random. The more they looked, the more they bonded, just like between human mothers and babies. So what does this mean? It means that your dog doesn't just love you because you feed them or walk them. They love you because they are designed to love you. Because the bond between you and your dog is wired into your brain and theirs. Let that sink in. And this also explains why dogs are so responsive to emotional cues. When your dog sees you cry, their brain feels it. When you laugh, they register the shift. They're not processing it with logic or reason, but with something deeper: instinct, bond, chemistry. I remember one morning when I had a terrible migraine. I didn't even get out of bed. Lights off, curtains drawn. I didn't say a word. But Max knew. He didn't bark for food. He didn't nudge me to go outside. He just curled up against my legs and stayed completely still for hours. It was like he understood everything, without a single word exchanged. Now here's something even crazier. Dogs not only recognize emotions, they can match them. A 2018 study exposed dogs to recordings of people speaking in various emotional tones: happy, angry, neutral. At the same time, dogs were shown images of human faces expressing those same emotions. Guess what? The dogs looked longer and more intently at the matching facial expression. That means they weren't just reacting to noise. They were connecting sound to emotion, to facial expression. That's a level of emotional processing many people don't expect from dogs, but it's real. And if you've ever felt like your dog knows exactly how you feel, now you know. It's not your imagination. It's science. Quick break before we dive even deeper. If you love this kind of dog content, and you're enjoying this journey through the emotional world of our furry friends, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. Also, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what breed your dog is, if you have one. I love hearing about your pups and where you're tuning in from. Let's get even more real for a second. People sometimes ask, do dogs really love us? Or is it just because we give them food? And I get it. It's easy to think dogs are just behaving to get a reward. But that mindset is missing the whole picture. Here's the deal. Yes, dogs are motivated by treats. They love snacks. Who doesn't? But they also show love in ways that go beyond food. They seek proximity. They show concern. They mirror your mood. They protect you, even when there's no treat involved. Have you ever been sick and your dog won't leave your side? Or been upset and your dog gently leans into you? That's not hunger. That's attachment. Dogs are capable of what scientists call attachment-based behavior. It's similar to how human infants attach to caregivers. They follow us from room to room. They get anxious when we leave. They relax when we return. They seek our presence because it gives them emotional security. It's not just habit, it's a relationship. And it explains so much about why dogs react the way they do to our emotional states. Because we're not just part of their routine, we're part of their emotional world. One of the most powerful moments I ever witnessed was at a veterans support group, where service dogs were paired with soldiers dealing with PTSD. These dogs weren't just there to sit quietly. They actively interrupted panic attacks. They woke veterans from nightmares. They gave them a reason to leave the house. Not because someone taught them how to feel, but because their instincts, training, and emotional connection made them the perfect emotional mirrors. So if you've ever wondered whether your dog understands you, the answer is yes. Not in the way another person might, not with words or analysis, but with something purer, more ancient, more real. In the next section, we're going to flip things around a little. What if dogs not only understand emotions? What if they also change ours? What if your dog is not just a receiver of feelings, but a source of emotional transformation? That's coming up in section 4, and trust me, this part hits deep.
There was this one evening, late autumn, chilled air seeping through the cracks of the window, that changed everything for me. I had just come home from work. Nothing extraordinary had happened. No massive breakdown, no visible tears, no dramatic sighs. Just that quiet weight, the kind of heaviness we carry deep inside without telling anyone. You know that feeling, where the sadness is tucked neatly behind your smile, so even your closest friends wouldn't notice? Well, my dog did. As soon as I walked through the door, tail wagging turned into cautious steps. Instead of bouncing around or nudging me for a treat like he always did, he paused, head tilted, ears up, and then he slowly approached me and rested his head on my knee. No commands, no cues, just stillness, as if he knew. That moment haunted me in the best way possible, because I realized something most people underestimate. Dogs are incredibly good at noticing what we try so hard to hide, even from ourselves. So how do they do it? Let's break it down. Dogs are masters of pattern recognition. You might not realize this, but your dog spends every day studying you. They know your walking pace, the tone of your voice when you're excited, frustrated, or exhausted. They know how your body smells when you're happy, and how it subtly shifts when you're under stress. They're not just watching, they're absorbing, constantly, silently. And here's where it gets fascinating. Dogs can detect changes in cortisol levels, the hormone our bodies release when we're stressed. No, they don't understand the concept of cortisol, but their noses, they do. Their sense of smell is so advanced it can detect 1 part per trillion. That's like sensing 1 drop of blood in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Now imagine what they pick up on when your body starts producing stress hormones. You're tense, you're quiet, you're smiling maybe, but your posture is slightly slouched. You skip playtime, your scent is different. You're not you. And your dog? He notices, and even more, he cares. Dogs don't wait for words. They don't need explanations. They act on feeling. If you're hurting, they'll lay by your side. If you're crying, they'll nuzzle your face or bring you a toy. If you're holding something back emotionally, they'll just be there. That's the kind of love they give. Intuitive, immediate, and without conditions. By the way, if you're still with me and this kind of storytelling about the emotional connection between humans and dogs feels like your thing, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And tell me in the comments, what kind of dog do you have and where are you watching from? I'd love to know. Back to the story. One of the most incredible studies I came across while researching this topic involved service dogs trained for veterans with PTSD. These dogs were specifically trained not just to follow commands, but to recognize the absence of emotion or sudden behavioral changes, like when a vet goes from calm to withdrawn in seconds. The dog learns to respond. Lean into them, lick their hand, nudge their face, snap them out of a spiral. Now here's the twist. Non-trained dogs have been shown to do this too. In another study, researchers placed owners in different emotional states and observed the reactions of their dogs. When owners pretended to cry, even just fake sobs, the dogs immediately approached, showing concern. Not for attention, not out of habit. They felt something was wrong and acted on it. That's empathy, not learned but felt. But here's where it gets even deeper and personal. There was a period, years ago, when I lost someone close to me. Grief isn't loud. It's not always crying. Sometimes it's washing dishes slower than usual, sitting longer in the car after parking, breathing just a little heavier when no one's watching. Except, someone was watching. Every night during that time, my dog stopped sleeping in his usual spot by the door. Instead, he'd curl up right next to my bed, head close, sometimes even resting on my chest. He'd never done that before. It was like he knew I needed something I couldn't ask for. Not a walk, not a treat. Just presence. And when I started to feel a little more like myself again, he went right back to his spot by the door, like he was saying, "Okay, you're good now." And here it is what that tells me. Dogs don't just understand the emotions we show. They understand the emotions we suppress. The quiet ones. The ones even we don't fully acknowledge. That's the magic of dogs. They see through us, not with judgment, not with confusion, but with unconditional understanding. They read our silence. They answer feelings we don't speak aloud. They are not just pets. They are mirrors, gentle, tail-wagging mirrors that reflect our emotional truth. So next time you feel off, even if you don't say a word, watch your dog. Chances are they already know. They might press their nose into your hand. They might rest their head against your leg. They might do nothing but sit close, eyes locked on yours. But whatever they do, it's real. It's raw. It's love in its purest form. Drop a comment below if your dog has ever done something that made you think, how did they know? I want to hear your stories. And if this video gave you chills or maybe even a tear or two, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories that show just how incredible our dogs really are. Until next time, take a breath, hug your pup, and remember, they know you. Probably better than you know yourself. Sometimes I wonder, is my dog just reading my mood or is he actually feeling it with me? Let me tell you about something strange that happened a few winters ago. I had just gotten off a phone call, one of those calls that drains the energy out of you. It was about a loss in the family. I didn't cry, not outwardly, but I was completely shattered inside. I walked into my living room where my dog Max was snoozing peacefully in his bed. As soon as I stepped into the room, he lifted his head, stared at me for a few seconds, and then did something he doesn't usually do. He slowly got up, padded across the room, and quietly laid his head right on my lap. No excitement, no tail wag, just quiet, warm stillness. And that caress, when it hit me, he wasn't reacting to how I looked, because on the outside, I was stone cold. He was reacting to how I felt. This section is all about that invisible, yet incredibly powerful connection we share with dogs, the way they seem to mirror our emotions. And science has a name for this: emotional contagion. Now, before we go further, if you're enjoying this kind of deep dive storytelling meets science style, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below. Tell me, what breed of dog do you have, if any? And where are you watching from? I love hearing your stories. It helps grow this community of dog lovers who actually care about understanding their pets. All right, let's get back into it. So, emotional contagion isn't just a fancy phrase. It's something observed across species, but it's especially strong in dogs. Let's break it down. Researchers from the University of Vienna did a study that proved dogs can match their owner's emotional state, particularly through facial expressions and voice tones. When owners showed signs of distress, their dogs mirrored that distress through posture changes, reduced movement, or even changes in heart rate. In fact, heart rate synchronization has been measured between dogs and their owners. When you're stressed, they become physically stressed too. And that goes both ways. Ever noticed how your dog seems more playful when you're in a good mood? That's not a coincidence. Studies suggest dogs will behave more optimistically or try to initiate play when their human is laughing or relaxed. It's like emotional telepathy, but based on scent, sound, and body language. Let's pause here for a second. Imagine you're walking in after a long, exhausting day. You toss your bag on the floor, your shoulders are heavy, and you don't say a word. Yet, your dog quietly follows you, curls up beside you, and doesn't demand playtime. It's almost eerie. How do they know? One theory? Dogs pick up on oxytocin cues. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, is released in both humans and dogs when they interact positively, like during petting, cuddling, or even eye contact. Dogs have evolved to look into our eyes, triggering oxytocin release in both brains. That shared hormonal reaction might be one reason dogs are able to tune into our internal states so deeply. It gets even more interesting. Dogs seem to respond more strongly to their own humans' emotions than to strangers. That's been tested in controlled environments, where dogs are exposed to recordings of different people crying or laughing. When their owner is crying, the response is faster and often more intense. They try to physically reach the source of the sound, sometimes even breaking through barriers. That's not just empathy. That's attachment in action. Now here's something that really blew my mind. Some breeds, especially those bred for companionship, like golden retrievers, border collies, and Labradors, tend to show higher emotional sensitivity than working breeds like huskies or independent breeds like Basenjis. That is not to say other dogs don't care. It is just that some dogs have been bred for generations to read humans better. But here's the kicker. Even shelter dogs who may have had rough pasts or little socialization can show incredible emotional connection with new owners. There are countless stories of rescued dogs who, after only a few weeks, start responding to the emotional rhythms of their human. That tells us something very powerful. This emotional synchrony isn't just taught, it's wired into them. And it works both ways. Did you know that looking at your dog's eyes for longer than 30 seconds can actually calm your nervous system? It's true. Your heart rate slows, cortisol, the stress hormone, drops, and oxytocin rises. So yes, when people say dogs are therapy, they mean it literally. Let's not forget about touch. When you're sad and pet your dog, that contact doesn't just help you, it helps them too. Touch is a bidirectional emotional regulator. That's why therapy dogs are so effective. Their presence physically changes our body chemistry, and in turn, they feel the shift too. Let me bring this back to Max, my pup. After that tough winter day when he rested his head on my lap, something happened I wasn't expecting. As I sat there stroking his ears, I felt my breathing slow down. My chest stopped feeling so tight. And in that moment, even without words, I knew we were helping each other heal. That's the kind of bond I think every dog owner secretly craves, that unspoken, deeply intuitive connection. The one that doesn't need commands, or training, or even logic. It just is. So next time your dog curls up next to you when you're down, or gets extra bouncy when you're happy, know this. They're not just reacting. They're feeling. They're syncing. They're choosing to be with you, not just near you. In the next section, we are going to look at something even deeper. How dogs may actually pick up on hidden emotional states, like when you're anxious but pretending you're fine. Can they detect what we don't show? Let's find out.